السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم جميعا في مدينة العلا. أشكركم جميعا على الحضور، وسألقي بقية الكلمة باللغة الإنجليزية. So you don't need to worry about your headsets. Distinguished governors, ministers, and by the way, I literally meant to start with governors because they always feel that they are coming after ministers. So for a change, I will address governors before the ministers. We need them particularly at this time. Madam Managing Director, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Al-Ula. It is a real pleasure to host you once again in Saudi Arabia and to co-convene this important dialogue with our partners at the International Monetary Fund. I would like to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to the IMF, to the Managing Director, to her team for their continued partnership, intellectual leadership, and commitment to strengthening support for emerging markets and developing economies. This conference takes place at a moment of profound transition in a global economy. Emerging markets and developing economies now account for nearly 60% of the global GDP in a purchasing power terms, and over 70% of global growth. Indeed, they have become an increasingly important driver of global growth, with their share of global economy more than doubling since 2000. Today, the 10 emerging economies in the G20 alone account for more than half of the world growth. Yet, they face a more complex and fragmented environment, elevated debt levels, slower trade growth, and increasing exposure to geopolitical shocks. Unfortunately, more than half of low-income countries are either in or at the risk of debt distress. At the same time, global trade growth has slowed at around half of what it was pre the pandemic. While capital flows to emerging markets remain volatile and highly sensitive to global monetary conditions. These are not cyclical challenges alone. They actually reflect a deeper structural shift that require a policy response that are credible, coordinated, and most importantly, country-owned. The purpose of this conference is therefore very clear. It is not to make statements, but to exchange practical policy experiences. It is not to debate abstract frameworks, but to focus on an implementation under a real and serious constraints. It is not to treat emerging markets as a single group, but to recognize their diversity and shared interests. From Saudi Arabia's perspective, our experience over the past decade has reinforced 3 lessons that may be relevant to our discussion, and I would like to share them with you. First, macroeconomic stability is not the enemy of growth. It is actually the foundation. Credible physical framework, clear medium-term anchors, and disciplined debt management create the space for investment and reform, especially in a volatile global conditions. Second, structural reforms deliver results only when institutions deliver. So there is no point of reforming and talking about reforms if the institutions are unable to deliver on these reforms. Policy credibility comes from execution, not from plans. From governance, from transparency, and the ability to translate strategies and plans into outcomes and impacts. Third, international cooperation matters more, not less, in a fragmented world. Strong multilateral institutions, effective surveillance, and adequate global financial safety nets are essential, particularly for emerging and developing economies, navigating repeated shocks. We really must find common ground to serve the common good. This is why our partnership as a group with the multilateral institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank Group, is so important. They play a critical role, not only as a lender of last resort, but as a trusted advisor, as a convener, and as a steward for a global economic cooperation. Over today and tomorrow, I would really encourage all of us to be candid, forward-looking, and solution-oriented. The discussions here in Al-Ula should help shape how emerging markets respond collectively and individually to a rapidly challenging global landscape. Once again, thank you for being here, and I will stop. Thank you very much.